By Alex GoodFri. September 29, 2017. Volpe David NickleChiZine, 365 pages, $19.99. David Nickle's 2011 debut novel Utopia, about a eugenicist community in early 20th century Idaho that's infested by a mind-warping species of parasite known as the juke, ended on a curious note. A sequel might have gone in many different directions, but I don't think anyone would have expected a book like Volpe picks up the survivors of Utopia some 20 years later as they are about to become enmeshed in another plot involving the juke, only this time set among Nazis in Bavaria. That much seems a natural development, but what follows is a political, psychological, and philosophical allegory of remarkable depth and ambition, the most intellectually provocative horror novel of the 21st century. This is not a conventional monster story, though it does have a giant tentacle beast that eats people. Instead, Nickle dramatizes themes that have preoccupied him since his first collection of stories, and, in particular, the dark process of self-seduction that informs everything from codependent relationships to our belief in God. The frailty of the human condition and meaninglessness of the universe draws the mind to find refuge in horrors, drugs, and myths of monstrous purpose. We write our own horror stories in the end. The tapeworm is just along for the ride. Provenance B. and Leckie Orbit, 448 pages, $34. And Leckie had one of the most acclaimed debuts in SF history with Ancillary Justice, the first novel in her Imperial Raj trilogy, which is being released this month as a handsome boxed set. Provenance returns us to the same Imperial Raj universe to tell a new story about a rather stressed-out young woman named Ingray who is looking to impress her high-ranking mom with a crazy plan involving the release of a notorious criminal from a prison zone. The plan starts to go wrong right from the novel's first line. What follows is less space opera than space operetta, with Ingray becoming involved in a political comedy of errors that threatens to spiral into a major intergalactic diplomatic incident. Provenance is definitely lighter fare than the Raj trilogy, but it introduces us to some interesting new characters, cultures and technologies and makes for another entertaining and imaginative Leckie adventure. Frankenstein Dreams, a connoisseur's collection of Victorian science fiction. By Michael Sims Bloomsbury, 400 pages, $29. The publication of Mary Shelley's Frankenstein in 1818 is usually regarded as the beginning of science fiction, but the genre then took another 100 years to arrive at its present form. In this anthology of stories and novel excerpts from the 19th century, editor Michael Sims tracks the process of this shaping, collecting some of the earliest explorations of what would become staple themes such as time travel, robotics and space exploration. Calling this Victorian science fiction is slightly misleading, as most of the stories, some of which are quite obscure, are American. It's mainly the excerpts from longer works that come from familiar European sources such as Mary Shelley, Jules Verne, Robert Louis Stevenson, and H.G. Wells. In any event, the major difference between SF then and now is perhaps not so much our greater knowledge of the universe. We no longer believe in Lunarians living on the moon, for example, or cities on Venus, as it is the evolution in style. It's the flavor of the writing here, so distinct from our own, that really makes this a collection for the connoisseur. Machine Learning B. Hugh Houghton Houghton Mifflin Harcourt, 352 pages, $22.50. While self-publishing via Amazon hasn't led to a total transformation of the book business, at least yet, there have been some amazing success stories. Hugh Houghton, author of the best-selling Silo series of novels, is one of the most notable of these. The Silo novels are the work of an author skilled in long-form narrative, and it's surprising to turn to the stories collected in machine learning and find them just as accomplished. Houghton's highly original take on such standard SF themes as aliens, artificial intelligence and virtual reality are lively and thoughtful, with several of the stories, including The Walked Up Nameless Ridge and The Plagiarist being real standouts. Houghton has been writing at a fever pace throughout this decade, but the quality of his output hasn't suffered, and machine learning is a good place to catch him at his best.